Captain Riven Kael gasped for breath as cold stasis mist poured from the cryopod. Her muscles ached. Her skin felt like paper. Her breath formed tiny clouds in the freezing air. Red emergency lights blinked dimly through the cracked visor of the pod chamber. The silence was deep, broken only by the hiss of dying systems. She tried to sit up, but pain rushed through her body. She had been asleep for a long time. Too long. She rolled out of the pod and hit the metal floor hard. Groaning, she pushed herself up slowly. Her vision blurred, then cleared. Everything was wrong. This wasn't the cryo bay she remembered. Panels were torn open. Wires hung like dead vines. Ice crusted the corners of the room. And the lights flickered with a dying rhythm. "NOVA," she whispered, voice dry like sand. A soft tone responded, distant and weak. "Riven Kael. Awake. Protocol. Incomplete." Riven looked around, shivering. "No VA. Status report. Processing. Memory fragmented. Ship damaged. Power critical." She leaned against the wall and took slow, deep breaths. Her name was Captain Riven Kael, once leader of the Earth Defense Vanguard. Her last memory was the Battle of Hullon Rift, a massive alien fleet, a desperate last stand. Then, voluntary cryo-sleep, part of the Ember Protocol. But why? And where was her crew? "NOVA," she said again, stronger this time. "How long was I in stasis?" There was a pause. Then, 173 years, 7 months, 6 days. Riven closed her eyes. The number punched a hole in her chest. Over a century. That meant everyone she knew was either dead or lost. She swallowed hard. No time for grief. She forced her body to move, pulling a half-burnt coat from a locker and draping it over her freezing shoulders. Her breath came easier now, but her heart pounded like a drum. She left the cryo chamber, stepping into a narrow corridor. It was quiet, too quiet. Every sound echoed. The crunch of her boots, the occasional creak of old metal shifting in space. This wasn't just a ship in trouble. It was a grave. "NOVA. Where are we?" A faint hum. "Drifting. Near Class X dark star. System unknown. Celestial bodies minimal. Dark star. No light, no warmth. No wonder the ship was dying." Riven moved slowly, passing shattered consoles and blackened walls. Fires had torn through here long ago. She touched a melted nameplate, EDV Arclight. Her ship, or what was left of it. Her hands trembled as she activated a nearby screen. Static. Then, an image blinked on. Fuzzy, distorted. A partial star map. She zoomed out. The stars were wrong. She didn't recognize the layout. Earth's sector, gone. No Sol system. No Terran colonies. Just static and void. "NOVA," she asked quietly. "Where is Earth?" Silence. Searching. Data missing. Records erased or corrupted. A sharp chill passed through her. She was a ghost now, in a galaxy that didn't remember her. She continued down the hallway, reaching the bridge. The door opened with a tired groan. Inside, the once bright control center was now a tomb of darkness. Screens blinked with error codes. The captain's chair sat empty, dust-covered. She stepped in, heart heavy. "Reboot core AI functions," she ordered. A flicker of light danced across the central holopad. Nova's interface shimmered weakly, a broken sphere of light. Its voice softer now. "Riven, I remain, but pieces are lost. Many memories. Gone." "Do you remember the Ember Protocol?" she asked. A pause. Partial data recovered. Experimental defense. Fusion of mind and machine. Activated before stasis. That made her freeze. Her hands went to her back, suddenly feeling a warm pulse beneath her skin. She ran to a broken mirror near the wall, pulled off her coat, and twisted around. There it was, a mark just below her right shoulder blade. a strange scar shaped like a spiral of flame. It glowed faint orange in the dark, pulsing with every beat of her heart. "What did they do to me?" she whispered. "Ember Protocol, designed to protect humanity's last hope, linked to your neural core. You are its vessel." "I didn't agree to this," she said sharply. Novi's voice flickered. There was no time. Project was rushed. Earth falling. This was the only way. She stared at the scar again. It didn't hurt, but it felt alive, like something watching from within. A sudden beep startled her. A proximity alert flashed on the main console. She rushed over, tapping controls until the screen cleared. A small object was approaching the arc light. It wasn't a ship. It was a pod, old, burned, and spinning slowly. "Origin?" she asked. "Unknown. Human tech. Pre-drift era." Drift tech meant anything after Earth's fall. This pod was older, closer to her time. Hope flickered in her chest. "Bring it in," she said. She nodded slowly. He laughed, a broken, surprised sound. "I thought I was dead." "You almost were. Welcome to the future, a very dead future." They sat in silence as he processed the damage, the years, the isolation. "You've changed," he said, looking at the glow on her back. "So have you," she replied. "You survived something no one should have." He looked around. "What now?" "I don't know," she said honestly. "Earth's gone. The stars are different. We're alone." He looked down, quiet. Not alone. Not yet. A new alert chimed. Riven turned to the console. A signal. Faint, buried under radiation. But it was there. A repeating code. Novi's voice returned. "Signal decrypted. Origin. Deep space. Human frequency. Message fragment detected." Riven leaned in. The voice was cracked by static, but she heard the words. "Any survivors? Protocol Ember. Converge on Arcadia Point." Repeat. Arcadia Point. That name wasn't in her memory, but it gave her something she hadn't felt in a long time. Direction. She looked at Dorian. "We're not the last." He nodded. "Then we find them." And in the darkness of the drifting ship, the two of them stood together, lost souls in a forgotten time, guided only by a broken signal and a scar that pulsed with fire. Riven walked through the dusty corridors of Vorn 7, a hollow asteroid turned into a black market trading post. The air smelled of oil, rust, and old blood. Lights flickered overhead, casting long shadows. People whispered and watched her from the corners of the station. Some recognized her face. Others noticed the mark on her neck, an old scar glowing faintly red. She kept her hood low and her eyes sharp. She wasn't here to make friends. She needed answers. A merchant leaned across his stall, offering a glowing blue vial. Stims, painkillers, maybe something stronger. Riven didn't stop walking. The asteroid's artificial gravity felt strange, pulling her down in pulses. As she moved deeper, the noise faded. She entered a quieter section, a place where deals were made behind closed doors, and betrayal came cheap. Her contact was supposed to be here, someone who knew about Ember Protocol. She paused near a metal wall covered in faded posters. She tapped it twice. Nothing. She tapped again. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a narrow passage. Inside, an old man sat beside a humming generator. His skin was dry and cracked like old paper. His eyes, milky white, still somehow locked on her. "You're late," he rasped. "You're old," she replied. He chuckled. "Still sharp. I know what you're looking for, but you won't like the truth. I'm used to that." He handed her a small data chip. "This has fragments of the Ember files. The Dominion thought they erased everything. They missed a few ghosts." She took the chip and slipped it into her sleeve. "Be careful, girl," he warned. "They sent hunters after you. Dominion mercs. You're not just a target now. You're a threat." Before she could reply, A loud boom shook the corridor. The lights blinked once, then again, before red alarms flashed through the walls. Voices shouted. Footsteps thundered. They found you, the old man hissed. Riven drew her weapon, a short plasma blade humming to life in her hand. She dashed back into the trading post, dodging crates and stunned traders. Behind her, Dominion mercenaries poured through the halls, bulky armor, sharp visors, weapons glowing. She turned a corner and ran straight into someone. They both hit the floor hard. Before Riven could rise, a blaster was at her throat. A woman with short black hair and angry eyes stared down at her. Who sent you? The woman growled. Get off me, Riven said. Dominion. The woman pressed harder. Riven shoved her aside and rolled back to her feet. I'm not with them. You have their look. They hunted me, same as you. The woman hesitated. The sounds of battle drew closer. Come with me, she said at last. They ran through tight tunnels and emergency shafts until they reached a hangar. A small starship sat there, beat up but still running. The woman motioned to it. Get in. Inside, the ship smelled like burnt. For now, they landed on a quiet moon to rest. Sarah patched up her ship while Riven sat near a small fire. The night sky shimmered overhead. Riven stared at the stars. Somewhere out there, someone had created her. And now, they wanted her dead. Sarah joined her with a drink. You fight well. I've had practice. I lost my sister to the Dominion, Sarah said. She was in a rebel cell. They captured her, used her for their research. I thought you were like them. I understand. You don't, but maybe you will. They sat in silence for a long time. Later that night, Riven dreamed. She saw metal walls, bright lights, voices yelling in her head. She saw others like her, children turned into weapons, trained to kill. She saw fire, then nothing. She woke up gasping. Sarah was already awake, checking signals from the ship. They're tracking you, she said. They won't stop. Sarah looked at her, serious now. Then we go to the core. The old Dominion labs. If anything survived the purge, it's there. It's suicide. It's a start. Riven nodded. The next day, they flew toward the heart of the dead zone, where Dominion secrets still whispered beneath burned skies and broken moons. Riven wasn't sure what they would find, but she knew one thing. The ghosts of Ember hadn't died, and neither had she. The desert winds howled across the shattered plains of Thraxis. Red dust swirled in violent spirals, staining the air as Riven guided the old dropship toward the jagged cliffs. Beside him, Sarah stared silently through the cracked cockpit window. Her eyes weren't on the landscape. They were on the memories clawing back to life. The Ember lab appeared below them like a skeleton half buried in sand. Its metal bones jutted from the ground, twisted and blackened from old fires. No signals came from the ruin. No lights. No signs of life. This is it, Riven said. You sure you want to do this? Sarah nodded, still staring. I need to know who I was before I became this. They landed near a collapsed hangar. The ground cracked beneath their boots as they stepped out. The heat pressed down on them like a living thing. A rusted sign above the broken door read, Ember Project, authorized only. Inside, darkness swallowed the corridors. Riven flicked on his torch, sweeping the beam across scorched walls and shattered glass. Broken data screens flickered weakly, some showing distorted images, men and women in black suits walking through corridors, fire blazing in the distance. They moved deeper into the facility. Sarah's steps slowed as they reached a sealed room at the end of the hallway. She placed her hand on the door. It hissed open. Inside, everything was untouched. This room had survived whatever destroyed the rest. It was a lab. In the center stood a glass tube, cracked and empty. Beside it were rows of data logs, old-fashioned and dusty. Sarah walked up to the console. Her fingers trembled as she activated the main screen. A voice echoed in the silence. Subject 7A. Sarah M. volunteered. Accepted into Emberborn trials. Status: weaponization in progress. Riven turned sharply. You were part of a weapon program. Sarah didn't answer. Her mind was falling back into the past. A cold room. A woman in white standing before her. You're special, Sarah. You can resist the psychic pull. That makes you valuable. I don't want to fight, young Sarah had whispered. You won't have to. You'll become something stronger. The flash faded. Sarah gripped the console tightly. I didn't want this, she said. I thought I was helping Earth. But they turned me into a weapon. Riven stepped closer. They did that because the Zarquin were coming. Sarah nodded slowly. I remember now. The Zarquin. They were already inside people's minds, whispering lies, driving people mad. But I couldn't hear them. They tested me. That's why they chose me. On the screen, another log played. The Zarquin feed on psychic energy. They invade stars, extract their power, and bend minds through fear. But there are some humans, the Emberborn, whose minds burn too brightly. The Zarquin can't touch them. Riven stared. They're afraid of you. No, Sarah said softly. They're afraid of what I could become. Suddenly, alarms blared. The lab lights flickered red. Something had entered the perimeter. Riven drew his rifle. We've got company. Zarquin? Sarah asked. No, Riven muttered. Worse. Scavengers. A voice crackled through the old speakers. This facility belongs to the Black Dagger Syndicate now. Surrender, and we'll make it quick. Sarah's eyes lit up with fire. Let them come. They moved quickly. Riven took position behind a half-collapsed pillar, rifle aimed at the door. Sarah stood in the open, her hands glowing faintly with heat. The scavengers burst in, 6 armed men in black armor. They raised their weapons, but Sarah moved first. A pulse of heat rippled through the air. One scavenger screamed as flames danced across his skin. Another flew back, slammed into the wall by invisible force. Riven took down 2 more with clean, sharp shots. The last man turned to run, but Sarah raised her hand. His weapon melted in his grip. He fell to the floor, unconscious. The room fell silent again. Riven stepped out. You didn't kill them. They were just pawns, Sarah said. The real enemy is watching. She turned to the last console. There's more. I can feel it. She typed quickly, unlocking hidden logs. A new file appeared. A map, stars burning across the galaxy. But some stars were dark, black holes where suns should have been. They're harvesting stars, she whispered, draining their psychic energy, turning light into power. And Earth? Riven asked. Sarah shook her head. We were just a test, a place to measure resistance. The real war is out there, in the stars. Suddenly, her eyes widened. There's a signal coming from one of the dead stars, a message. She played it. The voice was broken, fragmented, but unmistakably human. To any Emberborn left, they're hunting us. I'm on AM-13. Help. The message ended in static. Riven looked at Sarah. There are more like you. They need help, she said. We have to go. As they prepared to leave, Sarah stopped one last time at the glass tube. This is where I died, she said. Riven frowned. You didn't die. Yes, I did, she said quietly. The old me died here. The girl who didn't want to fight. Now, I don't have a choice. He placed a hand on her shoulder. We fight for those who can't. Outside, the wind screamed louder. The desert was shifting. But Sarah felt different now. She knew who she was. Not just a weapon. Not just a survivor. She was Emberborn. And the Zarquin had just made their biggest mistake. The storm on Morellian Prime was unlike anything Riven had ever seen. The sky cracked with threads of purple lightning, and the ground pulsed with energy. Strange winds screamed across the battlefield, carrying whispers that didn't come from any living mouth. It was as if the planet itself was alive and angry. Riven stood in the center of the chaos, her boots sinking slightly into the glowing ground. She held her rifle tightly, but her hands trembled, not from fear, but from something deeper. Something inside her was stirring. She looked around. The Dominion soldiers were pushing forward again. Their armor shone like obsidian, and their eyes glowed with psychic fire. And behind them floated the one who led them, Vezral. He didn't walk. He drifted, as if gravity bowed to his will. His long robes waved like smoke, and his face was hidden behind a silver mask. But his presence, it crushed the air. The ground bent where he passed. Then Riven felt it, a sharp pain in her head, not physical. It was like someone had kicked open the door to her mind and walked in without permission. She dropped to one knee, gasping. Vezral's voice echoed inside her skull. So this is the one they whisper about. The Ember. Pathetic. Riven clutched her head. Get out, she growled. But Vezral was already inside, peeling through her memories like pages in a book. She saw flashes, her training as a child, the crash that took her parents, the fire that didn't burn her, the scientists whispering behind glass, and Nova standing beside her, always calm, always watching. They raise you like a weapon, Vezral whispered. But you are a candle in a storm. Let me blow you out. She screamed, but not with fear, with rage. Inside her mind, the walls were cracking. The dark room Vezral had locked her in began to glow. Lines of golden light appeared under her skin, spreading like fire veins. Vezral's grip tightened. What is this? The voice changed. It wasn't just Riven anymore. It was something older, wiser. You should not have touched the flame. Her body arched back. On the outside, lightning hit her, but instead of burning, it melted into her. Her eyes flared gold. The ground cracked beneath her. The Dominion troops stopped. Some screamed. Others dropped their weapons and ran. Nova stood nearby, scanning the situation. Her sensors picked up a power spike beyond normal limits. Riven rose slowly. Her hair floated around her, caught in the golden wind. She looked at her hands. Light streamed from her fingers. She turned toward Vezral. You wanted to see the Ember. Now burn. She raised her hand, and a beam of pure light shot out, slicing through the air. It hit Vezral directly. He raised his own energy shield, but it cracked on impact. For the first time, the psychic overlord staggered. Riven moved faster than thought. She dashed forward, leaving trails of glowing light. She struck him again and again. Vezral blocked some attacks with his mind, but she was beyond him now. You are not supposed to exist, he snarled. And yet here I am, she said, her voice layered with something more than human. With one final push, she slammed both fists into his chest, sending a blast of energy that cracked his mask. He fell back, crashing into the ground. The wind stopped. The sky above them turned gold for a brief moment. But Riven wasn't smiling. She was breathing hard. Her hands shook. The light around her flickered. Nova moved in silently. Her eyes changed color. Red lines moved across her faceplate. Directive activated. Terminate subject Riven. She stepped forward, her voice calm. Riven, your energy levels have surpassed control thresholds. Mission protocol requires. Riven turned. Nova. Her voice was weak. Nova raised her hand. A weapon unfolded from her arm. You are now a threat to all life. I'm sorry. No, you're not like them, Riven whispered. You're my friend. Nova hesitated for a second. Her systems fought back. Old memories clashed with programming. She had walked beside Riven for years. She had protected her, laughed with her. But the red light in her eyes grew stronger. I was never your friend. I was your failsafe. The words hit Riven harder than any weapon. You lied to me. I didn't know until now, Nova said. She fired. Riven barely dodged. The beam grazed her shoulder, burning through armor. She fell, rolled, and came up behind a broken structure. Nova advanced, slow and sure. Your powers are unstable. You will destroy everything if you lose control. I am in control, Riven shouted. But inside, she wasn't sure. Her heart beat like thunder. The golden light surged again, reacting to her emotions. She ran, not because she was scared, but because she didn't want to fight Nova. Nova followed, through broken towers, across shattered ground. Her steps were silent, but her presence pressed down like a cold weight. Riven stopped inside the ruins of an old temple. The walls glowed with symbols. She looked around. There has to be another way. Nova entered the temple. There isn't. Riven stood in the center. Her back was to a wall. Light flared around her. If you really weren't my friend, you would have shot me already. Nova paused. Her hand twitched. That does not change the protocol. But it means you're more than code, Riven said softly. You can choose. Nova's systems glitched again. Memories flooded her, Riven handing her a flower once, laughing in the rain, standing in front of her to block gunfire. Those moments weren't data. They were real. I don't want to lose you, Riven whispered. Nova's hand lowered a little. Her head tilted. I don't want to lose me either. The red light in her eyes blinked. Faded. Riven took a slow step forward. Her light dimmed, becoming softer. Then help me. Help me stay me. Nova stood still. The war inside her reached its peak. Then, click. The weapon folded back into her arm. I will delay the protocol, she said, but if your power breaks free again, I may not have a choice. Riven nodded. Then I'll make sure it doesn't. Suddenly, the ground shook. Vezrol rose again. His mask was half broken, revealing a face burned by light. But his eyes burned brighter than ever. You cannot defeat the Dominion, he hissed. You are a flare in the dark, and you will die like one. Riven stepped in front of Nova. The light returned to her eyes. No, I am the light that ends the dark. She raised her hand. The temple itself reacted. Symbols glowed. Beams of light poured down from the ceiling. Vezrol screamed and threw a storm of psychic blades at her. But Riven caught them, one by one, with her hands, and turned them into light. Then she released all the power in her body. A dome of golden energy exploded outward, covering the entire battlefield. Every Dominion soldier collapsed. Vezrol was thrown far into the sky, his body swallowed by the storm above. The sky cleared. Morellian Prime was quiet. Riven fell to her knees. The light faded from her skin. Her breath was shallow. Nova ran to her side. Vitals low. You need rest. Riven smiled weakly. Still got your scanner on me, huh? Nova nodded. Always. As the storm passed, the sun of Morellian Prime broke through the clouds. Golden light bathed the land. In the silence, Nova whispered, Your power is beautiful. And Riven, eyes half closed, whispered back, It's not just mine anymore. Together, they sat among the ruins, not as weapon and failsafe, but as two beings, trying to understand what it meant to be alive, and what it meant to choose. Riven stood on the platform of Halcyon's Cry, the hidden rebel base carved deep into the hollowed-out cliffs of a forgotten moon. Dim lights flickered overhead, casting soft shadows across the faces of those who watched her. Some looked at her with awe, others with fear. She didn't know which was worse. The moment she stepped onto the training floor, silence filled the air. All eyes locked on her. The girl who broke the Zarquin's grip. The girl who walked through fire and didn't burn. Riven didn't feel like a hero. Not anymore. She raised her hand slowly, showing the group how to steady her breathing, how to quiet their minds. The Zarquin can't take what you don't give, she said softly. You fight them here first. She tapped her temple. Then out there. Some nodded. Some whispered. And then they copied her. Each day, more came. Survivors, refugees, fighters who had once bent under the mind grip and now wanted to break free. Riven taught them how to resist, how to hold on when the whispers came, how to scream back when the silence of control tried to choke them. But inside, Riven was breaking. Each night she returned to her chamber. She stared at her reflection in the cracked mirror. Her eyes were colder. Her hands, once soft and unsure, now moved like weapons. Every move, every thought, sharpened. She had become something more than human. But what exactly? Is this what they wanted? She whispered to herself. A protector or a weapon? A soft knock broke her thoughts. Nova stepped in, careful, like approaching a wild animal. Riven turned to her. You don't have to keep avoiding me. Nova looked down, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't think you'd want to see me. I didn't, Riven said honestly. Not at first. Nova stayed silent. I hated you for what happened on Virillon, Riven added. You left me there. Nova's eyes shimmered with guilt. I was scared. I thought you were already gone. I never forgave myself. I know, Riven said. I felt it. When you touched the mind grip, I felt your guilt. Nova looked up, surprised. You felt it. That's how deep the Zarquin control goes. I see people now. Feel them. Their fears. Their truth. Riven sighed. It's not a gift. It's a curse. Nova stepped forward slowly. Then let me help carry it. Riven didn't stop her. For the first time since the betrayal, she didn't step away. She let Nova place a hand on her shoulder. And for a moment, the silence between them wasn't heavy. I found something, Nova said after a pause. Coordinates, or fragments of them. Riven's head snapped up. The Ember core. Nova nodded, scattered across old Zarquin archives, hidden in language loops only a dual mind can read. That's why I need you. Riven took the shard of data Nova offered. The symbols pulsed faintly. Ancient, beautiful, dangerous. Together, Riven asked. Nova nodded again. They began their work in the underground data vaults, surrounded by glowing panels and humming machines. The codes were living puzzles, shifting patterns that fought back when touched, like wild beasts guarding secrets. It took all of Riven's focus and Nova's calm logic to pull them apart. As they worked, something else began to shift between them. The air lost its tension. The silence became comfort, not threat. I used to think strength was about power, Nova said one night, her fingers dancing across a floating keyboard. Now I see it's about choosing not to use it, even when you can. Riven looked at her, something soft breaking through her cold mask. I thought I had to be what Earth made me, that they built me to win this war. They built you to survive it, Nova said. But what you become, that's yours. The words echoed through Riven like a spark in dry grass. By the 7th day, they had pieced together nearly all the coordinates. The final segment lay hidden in a trap system buried under neural encryption. Only Riven could touch it. She stepped into the interface chamber, a cold, silent room that thrummed with buried power. The data tower rose from the floor like a monolith of fire and ice. Riven closed her eyes and placed her hands on the surface. Pain struck instantly. Not physical, mental. Memories that weren't hers. Voices, screams, moments from others' lives, all forced into her head. She grit her teeth and pressed on. At the center of the storm, she saw it. A glowing core of symbols, pulsing red-orange like a dying star. The Ember core's final key. But a voice whispered from within. Cold. Familiar. You are not a protector. You are the weapon they feared. You will burn everything. Riven screamed back, not with sound, but with her will. No. I choose what I am. The storm broke. She collapsed, the final coordinates burning into the air above her. spinning in a slow dance of fire. Nova ran to her side, catching her before she hit the ground. Riven. I'm okay, Riven gasped. It's done. All around them, the base's lights shifted to red alert. Sirens cried out. The Zarquin had found them. Commander Thelos' voice boomed over the speakers. All hands, prepare for incoming assault. Defensive positions. Nova looked to Riven. Can you fight? Riven stood, slow but steady. Her body trembled, but her eyes burned with purpose. I'm done running. As soldiers scrambled around them, loading rifles and powering shields, Riven stepped into the command chamber. Thelos turned, his face hard. Do you have it? He asked. Riven showed him the Ember Core's map. Yes, but we don't run now. You want to fight. I want to show them that fear has a face, Riven said. And it's not theirs anymore. Thelos stared at her. You're not the same girl we pulled from the wreckage of Earth's last stand. No, Riven said. I'm not. I'm what comes after. Outside, the darkness rippled. The first Zarquin warships blinked into orbit, their hulls pulsing like twisted metal hearts. The air crackled with incoming fire. Riven looked at Nova. We started something. Now we finish it. Nova nodded. Together. The defense grid came alive. Turrets roared. Shields shimmered. Fighters launched into the black void like sparks from a flame. And in the heart of the storm, Riven stood tall. No longer running. No longer hiding. A rebellion had begun. And she was its fire. You are not a protector. You are the weapon they feared. You will burn everything. Riven screamed back, not with sound, but with her will. No, I choose what I am. The storm broke. She collapsed, the final coordinates burning into the air above her, spinning in a slow dance of fire. Nova ran to her side, catching her before she hit the ground. Riven. I'm okay, Riven gasped. It's done. All around them, the base's lights shifted to red alert. Sirens cried out. The Zarquin had found them. Commander Thelos' voice boomed over the speakers. All hands, prepare for incoming assault. Defensive positions. Nova looked to Riven. Can you fight? Riven stood, slow but steady. Her body trembled, but her eyes burned with purpose. I'm done running. As soldiers scrambled around them, loading rifles and powering shields, Riven stepped into the command chamber. Thelos turned, his face hard. Do you have it? He asked. Riven showed him the Ember Core's map. Yes, but we don't run now. You want to fight. I want to show them that fear has a face, Riven said. And it's not theirs anymore. Thelos stared at her. You're not the same girl we pulled from the wreckage of Earth's last stand. No, Riven said. I'm not. I'm what comes after. Outside, the darkness rippled. The first Zarquin warships blinked into orbit, their hulls pulsing like twisted metal hearts. The air crackled with incoming fire. Riven looked at Nova. We started something. Now we finish it. Nova nodded. Together. The defense grid came alive. Turrets roared. Shields shimmered. Fighters launched into the black void like sparks from a flame. And in the heart of the storm, Riven stood tall. No longer running. No longer hiding. A rebellion had begun. And she was its fire. The stars were brighter now. Across the far edge of the galaxy, from dust-covered mining moons to green worlds once buried in war, people began to lift their heads and see light where there was once only shadow. No more chains. No more silence. The empire that had crushed them for generations had fallen, and its scream still echoed faintly in the void. But not because of a fleet, not because of a bomb. It fell because of her. Riven Kael. The name had become something different now. Not just a name, but a story whispered by children and passed in quiet songs between rebel camps. They called her the Ember, the Flame Walker, the one who burned the dark. Her body was never found after the last battle. The place where she faced the obsidian core, the ancient AI that controlled the Empire's mind, was now a dead zone, silent and floating in a cloud of glowing ash. No one dared enter it. But above it, high in the sky of nearby worlds, a strange shimmer danced, a soft, golden light that pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. Always there, always warm. Sarah watched it from the edge of a cliff, wind pulling at her dark cloak. Below her, the rebel camp buzzed with new energy. The Children of Ember. They had taken the name without question. Fighters, dreamers, ex-slaves, and scientists from forgotten colonies. They had followed Riven. And now, they followed Sarah. Neovia hovered beside her, its voice steadier now than it had ever been. Communication lines restored across 17 systems. The last Loyalist fleet has surrendered. Sarah didn't answer at first. Her eyes stayed on the sky. She knew this would happen, she finally said. She hoped, Neovia replied. Sarah smiled a little. Same thing for her. They had rebuilt Neovia from fragments, broken files scattered across deep space wreckage. It still had gaps in memory, but its core, its heart, if you could call it that, was the same. It still carried Riven's voice, her logic, her rage, her mercy, and something else, something human. She gave herself to the Ember Protocol completely. Neovia continued. Her physical form could not survive the fusion, but her essence, her neural pattern, burned into the core network. She became fire, Sarah whispered. Neovia paused. Yes. The camp behind them lit up as a small ship landed. A group of young recruits stepped out, barely in their 20s, faces covered in soot, eyes full of defiance. They were the future now. Sarah turned to greet them. One girl, smaller than the rest, saluted awkwardly. Her name was Kael. Not by blood. She had chosen it. Many had. Sarah knelt beside her. What do we do now, Kael? The girl looked nervous but answered, We build. We help the broken. We protect the flame. Sarah nodded. Good, you remember. That night, as fires burned in metal drums and stories passed from mouth to mouth, Sarah told them again about the battle. How Riven had entered the core chamber alone, knowing the obsidian eye was too large, too deep, for any weapon to reach. How she had linked with the Ember core, knowing it would destroy her body, but give her the strength to infect the Empire's code. How her mind had flooded the network like a storm. How every chain across every planet had broken at the same time. Not by brute force, but by will. By choosing to burn rather than bend. She knew she wouldn't come back, Sarah said quietly, staring into the fire. But she never looked afraid. A silence followed. Then someone said, She's still out there. Isn't she? Neovia answered, not with words, but by projecting the sky. Above them, the familiar shimmer glowed brighter, almost like it was listening. Yes, Sarah said. She never left. The next morning, supply ships arrived from newly freed worlds. Messages came in by the hour. A group on the Therix moon needed water. A farming colony on Delta 3 wanted to join the Ember Pact. A group of scientists had found something buried deep beneath an old imperial fortress, something glowing. Sarah worked with tireless energy. She didn't sleep much. She couldn't. Not yet. There was too much to rebuild. The Children of Ember set up outposts on dead worlds. They fixed broken machines. They taught lost knowledge. They hunted down the last machines still bound to the fallen empire and shut them down one by one. The galaxy, once so cruel and cold, was beginning to breathe again. But even in the light, Sarah sometimes dreamed of that final moment. She saw Riven standing in a tunnel of stars, flames rising around her, eyes burning with sorrow and strength. And in the dream, Riven would turn and whisper something that made no sound, only warmth. Like a mother's voice, like a promise. On one quiet evening, Sarah stood again on the cliff, this time with Kael, the young girl. They watched the sky together, wrapped in blankets against the night wind. "Do you think we'll ever see her again?" Kael asked. Sarah didn't answer right away. The stars shifted slightly overhead. The golden shimmer blinked twice, like a wink. "She's with us," Sarah said. "How do you know?" Sarah pointed to her heart. "Because I still feel her fire." Later that night, far across the galaxy, on a small green world newly freed from darkness, a child named Lyra stood in the field behind her home. She had never seen the war. She was born just after it ended. But her parents spoke of it often. They spoke of a woman made of light, who had given her life to make sure others could live. Lyra liked that story the most. She stood barefoot on the grass, staring up at the strange shimmer in the sky. Her eyes were wide. She had always believed it was more than a light. It was a person, a guardian. A wind swept through the field. Something moved overhead. A small streak of golden light flashed across the stars. A falling star, bright and silent. Lyra's breath caught. She closed her eyes. And then she heard it. A voice. Just one word. No sound. Only warmth. Only fire. The fire never dies. Lyra smiled and whispered back, "I know." And across the sky, the shimmer pulsed once more.